Hello everyone, today is 8th of January, now it's 20 past 8 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Later on today I will publish second news update on my Patreon and Boosty pages, and if you are looking for more news from Russia, more commentary, or if you like my work and want to support this project in the long term, you're more than welcome to join our communities on Patreon or Boosty. Links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. That's been said, let's go through some news now, and I will start with a short update on special military operation and the counter-terrorist operation. Let's start with the Kursk salient area. As you know, on 5th of January, Kiev regime's forces launched local-scale offensive operation in direction of settlement of Berdin, and as far as I understand, and many other commentators, main task of this offensive was to establish control over the Большое Солдатское settlement. All the Russian armed forces were ready for such developments, and basically this offensive force of Kiev regime was decimated at this point. Significant number of Kiev regime's troops end up being prisoners of their war, and even though Kiev regime's forces still are trying to conduct some local scale offensives, situation is under full Russian control, and Zelensky and his criminal associates have no chance to achieve anything at all in this or any other direction. So one may argue that this local scale Kiev regime's offensive has ended already absolutely abysmally for Kiev regime. Meanwhile, dear friends, Russian armed forces on its own conducting, on their terms also conducting offensive operations in Kursk salient area, and we have now reports that Russian troops establish full control over the Russkaya Porечная settlement, also Kasitsa settlement, this area, by the way, where you can see stars, and also on the western side, northern western side, according to some reports, Russian armed forces establish a full control over the Staraya Sorochina settlement. Definitely more information is needed and more confirmations about this progress of the Russian armed forces, and it is highly likely that during the day we will receive some additional information about this progress of the Russian armed forces in Kursk salient area. Simultaneously, Russian troops are conducting operations on the southern side of Suja settlement in Kursk salient area and getting closer and closer to this town. Initiative is clearly in Russian hands, despite attempts of Kiev regime to regain initiative with this failed local scale counteroffensive. And question remains, what was the purpose of this activization of Kiev regime as troops in Kursk salient area? And I'm staying on my initial thought that this is attempt of Kiev regime, on one hand, to regain initiative in the Kursk salient area, and in other hand, to divert attention of the Russian political and military leadership from other sectors of the front line towards Kursk salient area, because probably Kiev regime has some plans, not necessarily Kiev regime, NATO, let's say, NATO and their proxies in this former Soviet Republic, so-called Ukraine, have some plans to launch another invading operation, probably in Bryansk region direction, maybe in Belgorod region direction, although because a new grouping of forces of Kiev regime with this square's insignia was spotted in Chernigov area, it is also a probability that Kiev regime may go on for a provocation against Belarus and launch invasion into the Belarusian borderline areas with Chernigov region. This is risks of that are quite relative, especially if you take into account recent statements of President of Belarus, Lukashenko, who said that, according to his information, Zelensky received order from his Western masters to provoke military confrontation with Belarus. He made this statement yesterday or day before yesterday. So this is a recent statement of Lukashenko that according to his information, Zelensky has received order to provoke a military confrontation with Belarus. So therefore, I think it is quite possible that this new grouping of forces that was trained and armed by NATO, that was spotted in the Chernihiv region with this square insignia on the designated site sign. This group of forces may be used to invade borderline areas of Belarus. We will find out soon, I guess, what kind of plans NATO and their Ukrainian proxies have. But when it comes to Kursk salient area, it is obvious for everybody at this point that this activization was just an attempt to somewhat regain initiative and also to divert attention of the Russian political and military leadership from other sectors. Also, when it comes to hostilities, not just in area of counter-terrorist operation, but in area of special military operation, we have updates that Russian armed forces are further improving positions in Terni area, and according to some military experts, it is only a matter of days at this point, possibly, and Terni will become under full Russian control. And also Russian troops are further improving positions. And when it comes to Terni, by the way, let me find it. This is Terni, isn't it? According to reports, Kiev regime's forces are only on this northern western part, outskirts of the city. Rest of their town is either under full Russian control or Russian armed forces are conducting clearing operation. And the latest report from Terni is that Kiev regime's forces actually withdraw from most northern western part of Terni, and they're moving now towards Nilepovka settlement. So therefore, it is highly likely that in next several days, Terni most likely will be fully liberated, which is going to be a big deal, obviously, because Terni is a relatively large settlement. Also, as I said, Russian troops are further improving positions in Pokrovsk, Mirnograd agglomeration area, and of course on South Donetsk sector, this settlement. Where is that settlement, by the way? Velika Novoselka. Yes, that's it. This Velika Novoselka is a major hotspot also, and according to reports, this settlement is in operational encirclement. And even though last several days we might observe some sort of operational pause in this direction, I guess it is also a matter of days, and we will see full liberation of the Velika Novoselka settlement. I guess Kiev regime's forces in that area are on the brink of collapse, and if you remember, Russian armed forces were tightening encirclement against Kiev regime's garnison in Ugledar, and then when final push began, Kiev regime's garnison basically break apart very rapidly, and it only took a couple of days before entire town become liberated. And I think something similar might happen in Velika Novoselka settlement area. That's been said, let's go through some other news. Also, we have RIA Novosti's report, which is based on Russian Defense Ministry, that during the nighttime, early hours of this morning, Russian air defense systems on duty intercepted 32 Ukrainian drones that were launched by Kiev regime and the NATO, with the assistance of NATO, to strike deep into Russian territory. Unfortunately, number of drones seems like managed to get closer at least to their targets, and we are receiving reports that after drone attacks in Saratov region, one industrial facility was damaged. Saratov and Engels, by the way, during the nighttime experienced relatively large-scale drone attacks And well, one industrial facility was damaged, and according to local governor Roman Busargin, emergency services are working to deal with the consequences of this damage. And according to him, at this moment, based on preliminary data, there was no casualties on the ground. Russian armed forces also conducting long-range strikes, obviously, and this morning Russian media is reporting about explosions in Kiev and a number of other areas that are temporarily controlled by Zelensky's Nazi and the terrorist regime. Western supported the Nazi and the terrorist regime of Zelensky, let's say this way. No precise information what exactly was targeted by Russian forces, but during the nighttime there was a twice air raid alert in Kiev, and these explosions were occurring on the background of work of air defense that Kiev regime still has. RIA Novosti is also reporting about casualties that Kiev regime's forces suffered during the first week of 2025, and by the way, numbers are quite impressive or drastic. So armed forces of Kiev regime lost about 13,000 military personnel during the first week of fight, all killed and wounded, by the way, all along the front line. Also 46 tanks of Kiev regime were destroyed during the week, and obviously dozens and dozens of other military vehicles from these destroyed tanks. By the way, from 46 tanks that Kiev regime lost during the week, 29 tanks were destroyed in the Kursk salient area, including 5 Leopard tanks, and I believe British Challenger 2 tanks were also destroyed in the Kursk salient area. I shared on my Telegram channel video footage of destruction of this Western-made tanker. Quality of video is relatively poor, and therefore it is difficult to say, is it for sure Challenger 2 or it's Leopard 2? I mean, some experts argue that it is a Challenger 2. Some say it might be Leopard. In any ways, Kiev regime is suffering tremendous losses, obviously all along the front line, including in the Kursk salient area, and numbers said it all, isn't it? Just for the first week, Kiev regime lost more than about 13,000 military personnel, which is colossal. Also, Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that now Kiev regime is admitting actually that F-16s that NATO provided formally Zelensky's regime, Zelensky's militaries, are not really competitive when it comes to air-to-air combat with the Russian fighter jets. Let's translate this information a little more. Just a sec, dear friends. So F-16 fighter jets cannot compete in air battles with the Russian high-tech aircraft. This was stated by the head of the communication department of the Armed Forces of Ukraine's Air Force, Kiev regime's Air Force, Yuri Ignator. RIA Novosti reported about it initially. According to this person, Yuri Ignat, to effectively counter Russian aircraft, Ukraine needs more powerful modifications of the F-16 with improved radars and long-range missiles. Let's go for this sentence also that this Ignat said. Ignat noted that it would be difficult for Ukrainian pilots to compete along with the Russian aircraft with their high technological equipment. He also stressed that the introduction of the more modern aircraft such as F-35 could significantly strengthen the country's defense capability and create a powerful deterrent force in the center of Europe. So they are acknowledging that F-16s cannot compete with the modern Russian aircraft. And they won't have F-35s, by the way. This Yuri Ignat is so dumb, isn't it? So dumb, and I don't know. I don't even think that extreme Russophobes in Pentagon, by the way, will even for a second consider to transfer F-35s to Kiev controlled territory because of the risks that whatever know-how that F-35 might have, plane itself is a total garbage, right? We all understand that. And even US military experts, US pilots, by the way, are mocking F-35, right? But they are mocking plane because, as Elon Musk once said, their US military industrial complex attempt to put too much stuff in one aircraft, and therefore it become too complex and too unreliable, right? Nothing to be said about F-16's lack of dogfight potential. F-16 is not a dogfighter plane. It's a strike plane basically, and when it comes to air-to-air combat, I mean F-16 cannot even compete with their F-35. Sorry, cannot even compete with their F-16s. Right? There was several games, war games in US, and F-35s were tested against F-16s also, and every time F-16s won. And the only way F-35 can beat fourth generation fighter jets, US made fighter jets of fourth generation or any other, is if F-35 is competing against all the generation fourth gen fighters that have a weak radar and cannot detect F-35 on enough range, and therefore F-35s may shut down may run in such circumstances as a result of beyond visual range capabilities, right? With long range missiles basically that it has. But modern radars, I mean 4++ generation fighter jets have enough modern enough radar systems and missiles that are that has enough range to basically leave no chances for F-35s. Nothing to be said about Russian planes, Russian modern planes that have not just modern radars but also Russian fighter jets. Russian military industrial complex was focused to ensure that Russian fighter jets would also have additional capabilities to monitor airspace with heat tracking devices, and the Russian planes may detect even stealth fighter jets on quite a distance, by the way, just because they are leaving some heat trace. They might be capable of observing radar waves, but what are they gonna do with the heat, right? And once a Russian plane will detect heat, that's it. Missiles can be launched and game is over, right? But anyways, as I already said, F-35 as a plane may be total garbage, right? Extremely expensive piece of garbage, but there is plenty of know-how, right? In that plane, plenty. Together, all these new technologies may work poorly because that platform is not capable of much. But separately, I mean, this know-how is still top secret in US. So therefore, I don't know what these people in Kiev regime are thinking when they are dreaming about receiving F-35s. Man, this is not going to happen ever, man. But when it comes to F-16s, well, I mean, it is not surprised that F-16 cannot compete with the modern Russian fourth plus generation fighter jets like Su-30 or Su-35. And obviously F-16 cannot do anything at all against Russian Su-57, which is a 5th gen fighter jet. So, I mean, nothing new in this regard in this report. Just an interesting admission on part of Kyiv regime, and also demonstration of level of frustration, and also how delusional those people in Kyiv regime are, that they are dreaming about F-35s to be deployed on the battlefield, which is not going to happen, obviously. And dear friends, this news comes on the background of information about which I reported a few days ago, that Russian fighter jet intercepted, shut down basically in air-to-air combat F-16 that was provided Western F-16, by the way, NATO F-16. I don't believe Ukrainian pilots are piloting these planes. I believe it's NATO pilots, right? So just a few days ago, there was reports that Russian fighter jets shut down a NATO F-16 over their Kyiv controlled territory somewhere. It was in Zaporozhye, is not its sector of the front line, somewhere there on southern sectors. And I guess that's why Yuri Ignat commented on this topic and admitted that yes, F-16s cannot compete against modern Russian aircrafts, which is not really big news. We all knew about it anyways. A Kommersant newspaper, meanwhile, is reporting that, on 9th of January, tomorrow, there will be yet another gathering in Ramstein, US military base in Germany, and NATO member states that are providing Kyiv regime with weapons will work on a plan to ensure constant weapons flow to Kyiv regime, to Ukrainian Nazis, fascists, and the terrorists from West until at least 2027. This is the plan that they have. Let's translate this information for a little more detail. So the contact group of Ukraine at its 25th meeting at the German Ramstein air base on January 9 will approve the need of armed forces of Ukraine until 2027. This is stated in a statement on Pentagon's website. Kiev's allies will divide Ukraine's military need into several types and appoint among their NATO countries responsible for supplies in each of the 8 directions. This was stated by the senior representative of the US Department of Defense. According to him, the change of the White House administration will not affect the plans to provide the armed forces of Ukraine with the weapons. And then, quote, I am very likely confident European commitments, capabilities, experience, and outstanding faith in their mission, he said, quoted by TASS. The Pentagon officials added that coordination with each of the subgroups will be carried out by at least 2 NATO member countries. So, as you can see, dear friends, Western ruling class is definitely, seems like, not in a mood to face the reality, at least for now, and they are using their puppets to, including in Pentagon, by the way, in among NATO member states, including US, European states. They are using their puppets in governments of collective West to make sure that weapons flow to Ukrainian Nazis and the terrorists will not stop until 2027. That's what it is, really, right? I hope, and I'm quite confident, by the way, that Russian armed forces will crush enemies way before 2027. Most likely in 2025 we will see end of this conflict, and then once Kyiv regime's forces and NATO mercenaries formations will finally collapse all along the front line, at that point Western ruling class probably will have no option but to face the reality and no longer spend any any time on such nonsense, right? That, you know, that they are dreaming of to prolong this conflict until 2027. It's not going to happen. Most likely, Russia will destroy its enemies and force its enemies to capitulate in 2025. At least I hope so. And meanwhile, dear friends, as you already know, I guess I'm quite sure that many members of our community already informed about this news, because it was reported yesterday, early hours of the day. Kat Kellogg, by the way, as official representative of future administration of US into Ukraine and Russia, into this Ukrainian crisis, postponed his visit to Kiev without any nuances being provided. He was planning to visit Kiev in the beginning of January, and this visit will not happen. And question is now, as I discussed this topic yesterday on Patreon in my second news update, question now is what has happened? Why Kellogg postponed his visit? I come up with the two scenarios. First is a more plausible one. Second, I don't know. You tell me what you think. First scenario, more plausible one, or more realistic one, most likely is that probably Trump and his inner circle listen to reactions from Russian high-ranking officials about topics that were somewhat connected with the Kellogg and his plausible proposals how to end this conflict, including freezing of the conflict, deployment of NATO troops or European troops as a peacekeepers on line of contact, and topic of Ukraine's accession to NATO, which should be postponed for another like 15 to 20 years. And Russian leadership was very clear that none of these topics are acceptable. None of these potential proposals are acceptable for Moscow. Russia wants this conflict to end forever. Russia is not interested in the freezing of the conflict, right? Russia wants all the root causes of the conflict to be addressed. Russia wants meaningful negotiations. Russia cannot accept the deployment of any NATO troops on the line of contact, at least outside of the Western Ukraine. And this is my interpretation, by the way. Russian leaderships are saying that no NATO troops in Ukraine, period. But I think personally that Moscow would not be too frustrated if eventually, after Ukraine will undergo full-scale disintegration, which is inevitable, in my opinion, if after that NATO troops will end up in Western Ukraine, because okay, keep it and take care of it, right? Let the NATO countries now face Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists that transform Western Ukraine into their stronghold, right? Ideological stronghold. When it comes to rest of the territory of this former Soviet Republic, presence of NATO troops there is absolutely no for Russia. And same goes for Ukraine's accession to NATO. Not now, not in 20 years, not ever. That's Moscow's position. So I guess it is possible that Trump and his inner circle listen to Russian statements of Russian leadership, and therefore they realize that if Kellogg will go now in Kiev and start talking about these ideas, I mean, that would not go down well with Moscow, right? And that will compromise actually potential future negotiations. So therefore, maybe now Trump and his team will sit down and have some brainstorming, and maybe they will come up with something more realistic, more feasible, or achievable plan, right? That would be a right way to go. And the other scenario, by the way, that I come up with is that maybe Trump and the Kellogg and all the rest in Trump's team watched a recent interview of Zelensky to Lex Friedman, US blogger, and maybe they finally realized that they are Zelensky is just, you know, total psycho, right? And maybe Kellogg said, you know what, I don't want to even talk to this guy. Let's remove him, for God's sake. Put some other one there with more sane, more sanity, and then let's then work on a resolution of the conflict. Maybe this second scenario is more like a fantastic one, but it is possible that these guys watched that interview and said, come on, man, this guy, even as a puppet, is too much, right? So we have to deal with this situation first. I guess my first scenario is more realistic, but in any ways, we will find out soon, right? And dear friends, before I continue, let me notice that this project is completely subscriber funded. And if you like my work, if you think me and my channels deserve to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support this project with donations through PayPal or Boosty. You're seeing Boosty platform right now on your screen, or subscribe to my Patreon page. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And if you want to, of course, you can support this project with cryptocurrencies too. Address of my crypto wallet is also in the description box. That being said, let's continue with some more news. And well, Kommersant newspaper is reporting that Israel been recommended to prepare for a war with Turkey, which is quite something to tell, isn't it? So let's translate at least a little bit of this information. The Israeli army should be prepared for a military conflict with Turkey because of its desire to restore the Ottoman Empire. The Jerusalem Post reported, one of the main media outlets in Israel, as far as I understand, reported, citing a report by the Nigel Commission for the Analysis of Defense Budget and Security Strategy, established by the Israeli government in August 2024. Analysts of the commission considered that the policy of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in the region is hostile to the interests of Israel. And well, interesting news, interesting revelation from that committee and Jerusalem Post, but do I really believe that there might be some military hostilities between Israel and Turkey? No, I don't think so. On the surface, leadership of two countries, current or future, may come up with strong statements, criticize each other, and so on. But in reality, under the current, you can see plenty of connections between Israeli and the Turkish secret services, plenty of connections between Israeli and Turkish economies, by the way, and if you take in account that Erdogan and his party most likely are going to lose next elections, then I will say this assessment of Israeli committee is just too extreme. Me personally, I don't see circumstances in which Turkey will, dare to really get hostile against Israel militarily. I mean, it's just not happening, man. Not now, not under current administration that Turkey has, not under future administration. It's just, I don't think so. Anyways, you share your opinion, dear friends. Will Turkish political and military leadership ever dare to go against Israel militarily? I am skeptical of that. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that, Trump, by the way, continues to troll Canada and Greenland. I don't even know, is this a trolling or what the hell is going on, really? It seems like intention of the forces that are behind Trump are really, really serious in regards to Canada and Greenland. They want to establish unchallenged control over these territories. And for example, Trump posted a map of maps of Canada and US as one country, as the United States of America. You can see on your screen this map. So US President-elect Donald Trump has shared the two maps on social media showing Canada as American territory. He posted the image hours after officials in Ottawa rejected his repeated claim that Canadians would be happier under the US rule. On Tuesday, Trump took to his Truth Social platform to share a map of the US and Canada as a single country with the state border erased and the words United States superimposed on the new entity. He then posted an image of the territory of both nations painted in the colors of the US flag, accompanied by the words, "Oh, Canada." Speaking to reporters on Tuesday, Trump suggested that the US could use economic force to absorb its northern neighbor, whose goods he threatened to hit with harsh tariffs. You get rid of that artificially drawn line and you take a look at what that looked like. And it would also be much better for national security, Trump argued. Officials in Canada, by the way, not just from ruling party, but also from main opposition parties, stated that they will do whatever it takes to protect Canada's sovereignty. And I don't know, I don't have studies about opinion of Canadians. Do they really want to become Americans now? Or geographically speaking, they are Americans, right? Because Canada is also American, North America, right? But do they really want to become part of US? I have some doubts about that, because I may not be expert in Canada or US, but as far as I understand, there is quite a difference between Canadians and US citizens. Canadians are more like British people, if I may say, and that's why I guess in US many are calling Canadians more polite cousins or something, But, if this merge will occur, by the way, of course, United States is going to become the biggest country in this world. That's for sure, right? Because Canada is already second country in this world by territory, second only after to Russia, right? These guys seems like are very serious, man, very serious. And if so, I would not be surprised at all, by the way, if at some point in future, if US would not manage to persuade Canada to join US, I would not be surprised at all if US will launch some military operation to just overtake Canada. If forces that are behind the Trump are that serious about establishing unchallenged control over this territory, and it looks like those people are serious, right? And same goes for Greenland, by the way. Trump demands from Denmark. Trump demands that Denmark hands over Greenland. This is headline from RT here. So US President-elect Donald Trump has said he would not rule out military or economic steps to retake control of the Panama Channel or to acquire the Danish-controlled territory of Greenland. Asked during the press conference at Mar-a-Lago on Tuesday if he could assure the world that he would not use military or economic force in his efforts to acquire either one, Trump said he would not. No, I cannot assure you on either of those two, but I can say this, we need them for economic security, he said. Trump has repeatedly expressed his desire for the US to buy Greenland from Denmark. Then quote, people really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it. He said on Tuesday, claiming it was an absolute necessity for US national security. And right now, by the way, Trump's son is in Greenland with some delegation with him. And I saw some video, by the way. He was greeted quite warmly in an airport, at least, right? So I don't know what is the attitude of people of Greenland. I mean, do they really want to become US citizens or part of US, or do they want to gain just the independence from Greenland to be free to do business with whomever? Or maybe they want to maintain their status as a Danish citizens and to stay as a part of Denmark. I don't know, but something is quite interesting is happening. And by the way, we can already said that Trump's presidency is going to be some wild ride for this world. That's for sure, because these people are not even in office, and look what is happening. They're creating quite a disturbances in a geopolitical fabric of this world, isn't it? Anyways, let's continue. And well, I will end this update on this news, dear friends, that according to Foreign Minister of Hungary, Peter Szijjártó, energy prices in Hungary, let's translate, energy prices in Hungary are on rise for 20%, by the way, because of decision of Kiev to cut Russian gas transit. So Hungarian Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Economic Relations noted the 20% increase in fuel prices due to termination of gas transit from the Russian Federation via Ukraine. And Budapest now calling Kiev to act accordingly in regards to its attempt to join EU. Ukraine must comply with the association agreement with the European Union, which provides for the preservation of Russian gas supply routes to Europe. This was stated by the Peter Szijjártó, commenting on the decision of Ukraine to stop gas transit from Russia to EU from January 1st. And well, I can understand that Hungary, Slovakia, some other countries in EU are very much upset about decision of Kiev regime. But well, at this point, I don't think they can influence the situation in any ways. In any ways, because obviously Kiev regime was acting not alone. Kiev regime was acting on the orders of Brussels and most likely London and Washington, right? While refusing to prolong a contract with the Gazprom on transit of Russian gas. So, therefore, question is, does Budapest or Bratislava or other capitals in Europe that are unhappy with the current situation, do these capitals have enough influence over the major Western capitals like Washington, London, and Brussels, or to reverse the situation or not? And the answer is no, isn't it? Unfortunately, for these countries, they have no leverage over these major Western capitals and the influence. So therefore, unfortunately, Europe will face further increase in energy prices, further inflation, obviously, and hardly anything can be changed in this regard, at least until we will see no changes in the Western ruling elites and the Western ruling class in general. But well, inflation is already has started, by the way. 20% jump in energy prices. That's quite huge, isn't it? That's quite huge. And so I will end this update on this news, dear friends. Hopefully you will find the update informative, interesting, and useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything or any topic. As you know, this is the only way we can at least try and influence algorithm. I mean, yesterday YouTube, for whatever reason, especially didn't like my video, and yes, my yesterday's first update was crushed on YouTube. But hopefully this update will do a bit better. Maybe with your help, with your likes and comments, maybe this video will end up even in recommendations. And people that are looking for news channels from Russia might see this video in recommendations. Sometimes we are managing to influence enough algorithm to, that videos are in recommendations. And dear friends, if you can share information about my channel with your friends on internet or in real life, share videos if you can. And finally, well, if you like my work, if you want to support, you can do it. All the links are on this video description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care.